Happy Thursday, Tuesday. Sorry, I am down with, I guess, a summer cold or some weird strain of the flu. I'm not sure which. I hope it's just something that I can get over with real quick because I do not like feeling bad. I like to have all of my energy and be able to do everything that I wanted to do, and today's been difficult. I've been kind of struggling to even stay upright. So here's hoping that this is gone by tomorrow. So I'm hopeful. Anyhow, I thought I would talk today. Yesterday we talked about time management, but today I want to talk a little bit about the reasons for outsourcing your bookkeeping, the purpose of it, the why. I just spoke today with a gentleman from a payroll company, and I'll probably talk about him again. He's a real nice guy, and he works for a company that I really like. It's ADP, by the way. And I really like their product. I like the idea that I don't have to sit there as a bookkeeper. I don't have to find new payroll software. I don't have to worry about whether or not the payroll tables, the tax tables, are correct. All I really have to do is open up their software, I put the information in it, and I'm done. And it takes me about 10 minutes to run payroll with a client who has ADP, and I highly recommend them. And the really nice thing is, if there's a problem with the payroll, that something like the tax tables were wrong, or everything was inputted correctly, but the checks were wrong, ADP actually takes the liability on that, which is a wonderful thing. I really like that. And like I said, their software is really easy to use. It's easy to understand, and I can honestly recommend them. Now, why would I suggest that a small company, especially the ones that I work with, are definitely under 50 employees. A lot of times it's just 1 or 2 or 3. I tend to work with the startups, the very small companies, the ones that haven't even moved out of their house yet, getting ready to do a postcard mailing, and I really want it to go to every door because there are people that work at home like I do that don't have a business address, although I'll probably use a mailing list to start with, but there's lots of people that don't have a business address, that don't work from an office. They work out of their homes. And, oh good, I am feeling so bad that I was afraid I'd put this on my personal Facebook page. So they don't have, I mean, like me, I work out of my home. If you're looking for a list of offices, I am not going to be on it, but I may very well need business-to-business services. So those are the people that I really work with the most. It's the very small ones, the startups, the new companies, the ones that are just trying to figure out how to get their cash flowing. Sometimes I do work with people that are struggling a little bit. They've been in business for a while, but they're still trying to figure out how to run a business. And so they're the ones that I really like to work with because in a lot of ways they're the ones that need the most help. They tend to be overlooked. And they are the ones that, most people don't go to them. They figure, and it's true, there's not a lot of money available for outsourced services. So why would I want to market to that demographic, and why do I tell them that it's worth the money? Well, let's talk about number 1 first. So one of these days I'm going to learn how to put the text boxes up here somewhere. Haven't figured that out yet. Number 1, a business owner, if they're at the startup level, their time is at an even higher premium than their money. I have tended to price myself low enough that any business that even has a hope of surviving should be able to afford my services. I do this for a lot of reasons. One is the law of averages kind of takes care of me, even if it's a very small business and it takes me a little bit once in a while to get it taken care of. The law of averages states that over time that is going to kind of even itself out. So we do under a certain number of transactions per week and certain other things to get this very, very low rate, and I'm not going to just mention what the rate is. I will tell you that if you contact me and set up an appointment, you will get a free consultation on your business, and I will tell you everything that you want to know. And you know, if you call, I may even send you a white paper on one of my clients who started outsourcing their bookkeeping, and they went from just a few $1,000s a month in revenue to tens of thousands of dollars in revenue. It was a really amazing thing to watch. It was just so cool to watch their numbers go up month over month because they took bookkeeping off of their plate. That was something that they were trying to do. It was overwhelming to them. There's a certain energy that, and maybe this is a little woo-woo for a lot of people, but I really think there's a certain energy behind having unfinished tasks. It's hard to stop thinking about them. It's hard to stop thinking about, oh, the light bulb that's burned out in the backyard that I've really got to go take care of, but I'm going to procrastinate on that just a little bit longer. In my case, it's probably fine because my yard is fenced and it's small and it's a tall fence and there's nothing anybody wants in here anyway. But there's a certain energy. I mean, it kind of takes away, it's a mental burden. Maybe that's how a good way of saying it. I've read a piece by the gal that wrote Unfuck Your Habitat, pardon my French, but that is the actual name of the book. And she says that women tend to disproportionately, and this is not every couple, but disproportionately carry the mental burden of trying to remember where everything goes. And what do I need to get at the store? What are we going to have for dinner tonight? And where does little Johnny need to be at 5 o'clock? And they often have this in addition to a full-time job where they have all the mental burden of that as well. So there's a certain mental burden. And I'm not by any means dissing the men. I have met a few men that are not great, but they are very few and far between. Most of the men I know are just absolutely wonderful people, like most of the women I know. But there's just this mental burden. It's where you get women that are complaining. My husband says he's babysitting the kids, or I have to tell him what to do in the house. And when you add in a full-time job and the mental burden of running the household, no wonder whoever it is that's in charge of that, whether it's male or female, is burning out. It's a lot of work. Well, when you have unfinished tasks, when you sit down and you know that, oh, I've got to do the books. I can't go to bed till I do the books. And it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I've already worked 16 hours today, and I am exhausted, but I can't go to bed till I do the books. There's just this mental burden of, now I have to make sure this gets done too. And it takes away from the energy that's available for the rest of your business. And I know a lot of people don't really realize that, and I think you don't realize it until it's taken off your plate. Until I just signed up a lady a couple of months ago and told her, you don't ever have to worry about bookkeeping again, ever. You don't ever have to worry. It is off of your plate. If you need a copy of your file, I'll provide you a copy. You can't make changes in it because I'm the one making the changes. Sorry, it's just a QuickBooks thing. But you have this information. You have it at your fingertips. Your most current reports come in Monday at 10 o'clock. You don't ever have to worry about this again. This is now my job to worry about. And she just went, oh, like you're just getting a massage. It feels just so good to take that off of your plate. Kids just got awfully quiet. So there's that. And when you have that energy that you're not putting into bookkeeping, now you can take that energy and you can put it into tasks that are productive for your business. You can take that energy, even though you're paying a little bit for bookkeeping. I mean, you have to pay for everything. But you can be paying a little bit for bookkeeping, and it's really not very much compared to the benefits. The benefits, the first one is you have more time. You have more time to grow your business. You have the relief of that mental burden that is associated with bookkeeping. And everybody that I know, every client I have ever had, it really is a burden to them to do bookkeeping. They don't enjoy it. They don't like it. They kind of cringe at it, and they end up with a geological stack of receipts at the back of their desk where the new ones are on top and the old ones are at the bottom. There's no telling what's in between. So Sorry, you guys, I am really not feeling very well. Gonna be better tomorrow. I'm determined. It's just, kind of, and I don't know about a lot of people. I know, you kind of see a little bit of clutter in my house when I do these videos, but I really cannot work if it's a big mess. I can't. I have, again, kind of that mental burden of I need to clean off the dining room table, I need to clean up the kitchen, I need to do the laundry. It just kind of wears on you after a while. And so the biggest thing I could do to relieve my mental burden would be to hire a housekeeper. And that's definitely on my list of things to do. So that's the first reason you want to hire a bookkeeper. The second reason is you want to hire a competent bookkeeper. I have noticed that a lot of times bookkeepers and accountants, and a lot of times they'll even have all the letters behind their name. Oh yes, I'm so-and-so, CPA, MBA, ABCD, EFG, and so I know everything. And you want to know something? Those are some of the worst books I have ever looked at. When you have a bookkeeper that comes in and they immediately start dissing everything everybody else has ever done without a reason, especially if they look at you and they go, okay, I looked at this. This is a mistake. This needs to be fixed. That's one thing. But when they come in and they go, oh, your books are just a mess. I just don't know how you managed to stay in business all these years without getting sued. They're not competent. That would be my first red flag. They're not competent if that is how they start off. And it doesn't matter if it's what kind of business it is. I have seen some of the absolute worst books. I have seen some really amazing sets of books, very, very clean ones. The clean ones are usually done by me. The really, really messy ones are invariably done by a CPA. The really awful ones, they're the ones where the CPA feels like they have to justify their degree. Hopefully I'm not going to be one of those. I am going back to school in September, starting September 1st. I will be returning to school to complete a double major in business management and accounting so that I can go back and say, well, this is why your books are messed up, and I have the credentials to back me up. And I expect it to be a fairly easy class because or very easy course, or series of courses, because I already know most of this. And then I'm going to follow that up with an MBA. Why? Well, having been to college before, I studied computer science in the late 90s and the mid 80s, which is totally dating me. Sorry, guys. As a joke, I self-identify as a 29-year-old woman, and so if you don't agree with me, you're trans-age phobic. That's totally a joke. But I studied computer science, and I studied information technology. And what I really found was that there were a few things that I already kind of knew, but they clarified it. Because that was my passion. It's been my passion ever since I was, figured out what a PC was. Especially once I figured out what a modem was. This is, again, I'm dating myself. This is back when we actually had to have a modem with a handshake where you had to, either the computer could be on the phone or you could be on the phone, but not both at the same time. And if someone picked up the phone to make a phone call, you got kicked off. I am so sorry, I'm so foggy. So a lot of what they were explaining was the science behind what I already knew. And that's really what I'm expecting out of these degree programs. It's not that they're going to teach me anything new. I know how to do bookkeeping and I know how to do accounting. And I do it quite well. I've had multiple CPAs tell me that my books are the best they've ever seen. And I have been deposed as a witness in various court cases because I'm so good at what I do. But like I said, if you hire someone and they look at your books and they just go, oh, they're just a mess, they are probably not very competent. If they are competent, they're going to be able to sit down and they're not going to say, oh, your books are a mess. They're going to say, this is what I found. And this is why that's a problem. And this is what we need to do to fix that. Anytime I hear about someone who's using scaremongering tactics of any sort, anything from, oh, you could be audited if you do it that way, you know, or you've done it in that way in the past, you should have been audited for that. I usually kind of show them the door pretty quickly. The reason is bookkeeping is not rocket science, folks. It's really not that difficult. And I talk about having a competent bookkeeper, and I think that's important. But it really doesn't take a whole lot to be reasonably competent at bookkeeping. Most of my clients could do their own books. I just don't happen to want them to. But most of my clients could legitimately do their own books. The idea of hiring someone to do their books is not to create it's not to create a job for myself. There's other things that I'm good at that I could do just as well. And I am so sorry, I am so sick. It's not to try to force a business owner out of doing their own books. One of the reasons it's better to have an outside bookkeeper is to make sure that business owners do try to make mistakes. I mean, they do make mistakes. They assume, especially if it's a very small business, that I am the business is me, therefore everything I spend must be business related, and unfortunately that's not true. But you know, you can tell a competent person by how they explain it. I'm going to use an example that has nothing to do with bookkeeping. I recently, a couple of months ago, drove over a saw, and it was like this long. And I was close to a tire shop, and I was far away from, I was in Salt Lake, and the auto repair shop that I do books for, where I'm physically there at their location, was in Provo. So it was about 30 or 45 minutes away. There was no way I could drive down there and have my guys take care of it. I'm not a car person, by the way. I have driven a lot of old cars, so I know how to, I know, you know, I can usually tell pretty quick. You know, if the car won't start, start with the battery, and then the alternator, and then the starter. And if it's not one of those three things, then maybe it's a fuse. And if it's not one of those things, then it's out of my, you know, that's more than I can do. I kind of was joking around. But this tire shop, now their specialty is tires. They came to me and they said, well, you need to replace your battery right away or it's just going to die and leave you on the side of the road. I said, really? Oh yeah, we need to take care of that right away. It's going to be $180. And I said, really? I work for an auto repair shop. Oh, well, let me tell you about your air filter. And you need a new air filter. And I said, really? What happens if I don't replace it? Oh, well, you know, the air intake could be clogged. It's going to affect how your engine runs. And I said, One, I work for an auto repair shop. Two, it's a brand new air filter. I know how to replace an air filter. And I thought, if they have to resort to fear-mongering, and by way of contrast, the auto repair shop that I do books for will sit down a customer and they will say, okay, we checked your car over. Now these are the things that we found that we think may cause some serious problems for you pretty quickly. This is the cheapest way to fix it. This is the next cheapest way. This is the middle. This is the way we recommend. We don't want to see you having any problems with your car. Notice that they're not saying, we don't want you to be broken down on the side of the road. We don't want you to have any problems, okay? And they just explain it very factually, and they never, ever, ever upsell someone something that they didn't want. And that's one of the things I like about this auto shop. I have yet to hear them have someone come in with a tire repair and then say, oh, you need to replace your battery. They just go, okay, here's your tire. Now, would you like us? They do inspect the car. They do all of that, but they won't come in and go, well, you need to replace your battery because it's going to just die and you're going to be stuck on the side of the road. They will say, we noticed that your battery looks like it's a little bit low. You might want to consider getting that replaced before winter time. Of course, if you have any problems, we're here for you. There's no pressure. You notice there's no pressure. And that's one of the reasons that I really like working with Edgemont. They are low pressure. They are not out to suction money out of your wallet. They just tell you, okay, this is what we see is wrong. This is why it's a problem. Okay? Oh, your battery is marginal. Now, if your battery is marginal, you know, as the temperatures get very high or very low, it tends to reduce your battery's efficiency. So if your battery is a little bit marginal, as temperatures get really high, since it's summertime, you maybe want to be aware that it may cause your car not to be able to start. If that happens, you should be able to jump start it and then bring it into us. And by the way, they give you a really good deal on a battery. You see how the difference is? I still needed a battery in both cases, but in one case, it was fear-mongering. It was, you know, your car's going to explode and it's going to be, no, it's not. And I assume that they thought that because I am, you know, was in a dress, in hose and heels and all fixed up. And when I said, yeah, I work for an auto repair shop, they kind of, what? Yeah, I kind of do. And I went to work dressed up that day because I had other appointments in the afternoon. So my point on that is that if someone is trying to guilt trip or use fear to force you to buy, they are probably not very good at their job. I can't say this for sure one way or the other, but that's usually a red flag that I see is, you know, and your books may be completely jacked up. They may be a disaster from stem to stern. And what I will do then is I will go in and I'll go, okay, I noticed that you have an awful lot in meals and entertainment. Are these meals, you know, if these are just meals that you're eating during the day, by the way, that actually should be coming out of your personal account, just so you know. Let's talk about moving forward with this. I don't ever sit there and say, at least I don't like to, sit there and say, well, if you don't do things my way, you're going to get audited. I have no way of knowing if they're going to get audited. I will say, this is one of the things that the IRS does look at as a red flag. I'm not going to go into someone else's office and say, well, you know, if you have your books like this, you're going to get audited. Why? Because I'm confident in my abilities. Because I already know that I know what I'm doing. And so I can go in. I have a good friend who's, she has a master's degree in forensic accounting. And she is one that I would happily refer business to. You know, once my client load fills up, I would happily refer business to her, and I would happily have her work with me because she's really, really good. And we were talking about, I said, you know, I'm the only one in the office who doesn't have a degree. And she said, but you know what you're doing. And I said, really? She goes, I said, just out of curiosity, how can you tell? She said, I can tell by the way you talk about it. And she also said, there's no fear-mongering. There's no, you know, trying to scare the customer. It's just explaining what it really is and how it needs to be changed in the future. And then saying, I can change it in the past. How far back would you like me to go? And explaining, like I do in the videos, you know, I try to explain, this is what a basis is. This is what your accountant's talking about. This is what your reports mean. This is, if you're using QuickBooks Online and you have unapplied sales income, it's because you have invoices that are dated after the payment came in. Or you have invoices and payments that are not matched to each other. Pretty easy fix. It's just a little time consuming. Not a big deal. I don't sit there and go, oh my gosh, you know, the sky is falling. Because it's not. So that's the first thing I look for. You know, if I'm talking to someone and I want to know if they're competent, if they're fear-mongering, if they're scare-mongering, if they're trying to make me afraid, I don't use them. And it really doesn't matter what kind of business it is. I don't like the calorie counts. Now, on all of the restaurants, because I'm like, well, this is a special treat. It's not an everyday thing. I know how many calories are in a double nachos, trust me. I know how many calories are in a Big Mac. I don't need, a nanny saying, oh my gosh, if you're going to eat this, you're going to die of a heart attack. Probably not. I feel like with a lot of things, we find out that we don't know what we thought we knew. And, gosh, I'll be glad to be over this cold, and I will be over this cold tomorrow. I'm determined, because then I'll be able to think clearly. So that's the first thing I look for. If they start looking through someone's books and they start saying, oh, they're going to get sued, or they're going to be audited, or this is a disaster, well, it may be a disaster. But if it's a lot of fear talk, then my immediate assumption is they don't really know what they're talking about. They're trying to bully me, and I don't do bullies. Another way of making sure that your bookkeeper knows what she's doing is just to talk to her, have her explain your reports to you. Watch one of my videos. I have a couple of videos on what these reports are like. Look at the beginning ones where I actually have the reports on the screen. This is my 50th video, and so if you go back to the very beginning on my YouTube channel or here on Facebook, you'll be able to see, where I actually even had the reports on the screen and was explaining what each of these mean. If she can't explain your reports to you, she doesn't know what she's doing. It doesn't have to be a perfect explanation, but she should know what those reports mean, and she should be able to communicate that. I'm pretty good at explaining complex, at least I'm told I'm pretty good at it. I'm not going to own that, but I am told that I'm pretty good at that, and I hope this is true, that I'm good at explaining complex concepts in a simple manner. My assumption is always I need to be able to explain this to my 4-year-old grandson, or my my 8-year-old nephew. I'm sorry, he's 6. My 6-year-old nephew, and have him understand it. That TV show, Are You Smarter Than a 5th Grader? Well, I want to be able to explain this to a 5th grader and have him understand that. And if I can't, then I'm not understanding it myself. That does mean that I can't use jargon. It means that I have to be very clear in my communications, because a 5th grader is going to call you out on everything. Just so you know. Now, so that's a couple of ways to know. And I have another video on how to tell if your bookkeeper is competent or not, and I will probably do another one on how to tell if your bookkeeper is competent or not, because I really want to talk about this fear-mongering that I hear a lot. I think I used that 7 or 8 years ago, when I really wasn't as sure that I know what I'm doing as I am today. Now that I've studied, I've done a lot of studying, and I've done a lot of research, and I've certified for every single software that I can find. I'm certified on Xero, I'm certified on QuickBooks, I'm certified on QuickBooks Online. You name it, I'm certified for it, probably. I know how to use Zoho books. I know how to use GNU Cache. I don't like GNU Cache, by the way, but that's mostly because of the interface. I really don't know how good the software itself is, because I had to download it and open it, and I didn't want to go to all that trouble. You can tell if someone's a really good bookkeeper too if you take them out of their comfort zone and throw them into a different software and see if they can use it. For example, I jumped from QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. Those were my core competencies. To Xero. By the way, the more I hear about Xero, the less I like them. I'm sorry if they've gone through 5 CEOs in 2 years, there's a problem. And they're not recognizing them. So I've gone from QuickBooks Online, to Xero, to Intact. And Intact is designed for companies or umbrella corporations with multiple entities. And if I can understand Intact, and I can, anything else is gravy. It's easy. So why do you want to hire an outsourced bookkeeper? And I am so sorry, you guys. I know I'm rambling way more than I usually do. You want to hire an outsourced bookkeeper because, one, while you may be perfectly competent to do the books yourself, you want to make sure that you are not making rookie mistakes and you want to capitalize on the mistakes and the education of somebody else. Bookkeeping is one of those things that, I'm going to tell another story. My mother grew up in the 50s and 60s, and she knows how to do a white glove dinner to the point that I believe she could have the president over to her house for dinner and be comfortable with it. She knows how to do that. She's that good. She was raised, that's how she was raised. However, today, usually the china she chooses to use is the kind you can throw away. Why? Because she doesn't want to do it. She knows how. She knows how to use the beautiful china. She knows where the forks go and where the glass goes, and I do too, by the way. I know how to do beautiful, elegant, entertaining. I know how to do a white glove dinner. I know how to do a black tie dinner. I know how to do wonderful formal events. But you know what? If I was going to do one of those, I believe I would hire someone. Why? Because that's not my core competency. My core competency is adding up two columns of numbers and making sure that the totals match. That's what I do for a living. It's not. I would get overwhelmed trying to plan an event like that. It's not that I don't know how. I do, but I don't do it every day. So the idea is overwhelming. Or refreshing my apartment. My apartment needs a new coat of paint. It needs new. It needs a couple of new blinds. It needs some curtains. It kind of needs to be refurbished and redecorated just a little bit. Not anything that would violate my lease. And I have a hard time with it because it feels like a huge project to me, because it's not something I do a lot. I haven't flipped houses. I haven't done anything like to that. And so the odds are pretty good I'm not going to do this without help. Again, could I paint a wall? Yeah, I can paint a wall. I'm not stupid. I can paint a wall. I can paint it well. I can choose colors. But it's not something I want to expend a lot of energy on if I don't have to, if I have someone to come in and help me. And that's the first reason to hire an outsourced bookkeeper. Play to your strengths. Play to your core competencies. The second reason is just to make sure that you're not making rookie mistakes. Bookkeepers, if they have any experience, and oh, by the way, they should have recent experience. You don't want to hire a bookkeeper who the last time she touched QuickBooks was in 2001, and she doesn't know how to write a check in QuickBooks. You don't want to hire someone like that. And you don't want to hire someone who says it's my way or the highway. Or if you ask them questions, and they don't know, and there's always scenarios where that happens, their response should be, let me find out. Let me find out the best way to do that, and I'll get back to you. And you want that bookkeeper because they can actually spend more time or even less time on your books and work more effectively because that's what they do all day. It's a lot easier it's a lot easier for me to not have that mental switch from, okay, I'm going to work on advertising, to I'm going to work on bookkeeping, to I'm going to work on this big client, to I'm going to work. I don't like that. I like to be able to go, okay, this client, this client, this client, this client. It's all basically the same thing. I'm just opening and closing QuickBooks files. Makes it a whole lot easier because I intimately know those clients, and I know what their needs are, and I know how do I explain this? I know I can tell what's coming up for them because I know how to read their books. So that's. You want to learn from someone else's mistakes, not your own. That's kind of where I'm trying to go with this. You guys, I am so sorry. And then you also, again, there's a lot of mental energy that's involved just having it on your plate. Get it off your plate. Find a confident bookkeeper. Find someone that knows what she's doing and get that off of your plate. And then you can focus on the things that work best for you. You can focus on your business. You can focus on your family. That's something that nobody else can do for you. is focus on your family. Nobody else can replace you. Yeah. I'm probably going to revisit this sometime when I'm not feeling sick, so my apologies. I know I'm rambling, and I know that I'm not very mentally clear right now, and hopefully by tomorrow this will be gone. I'm just hoping this is just a one-off. I almost never get sick. Never. My attitude is usually, I don't have time for this. So it's kind of a challenge to actually, not be feeling great. That's it for tonight. I want to wish you again a happy Tuesday, and I will talk to you tomorrow.